Hello, everyone, and welcome to another recap race analysis here on the Cycling Dane Extra channel, or if you're listening to us on the Cycling Dane podcast. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Greg himself, Ewan Wilson, and Ewan, today was the big Col de la Loze stage, and yeah, what exactly happened on the stage?
Well, this stage was the so-called Queen stage of the Tour de France. That is for good reason. We began in Saint-Gervais, Mont Blanc, and headed up to Courchevel across the Comé de Roseland, the Col de Cézy, two Category 1 efforts before the hardest climb of this year's Tour de France, the highest point of this year's Tour de France, the Col de la Loze, a 28-kilometer climb at an average of 6%, reaching 2,300 meters above sea level. It was a mad dash to get into the breakaway in the morning. Lots of riders trying to get involved, particularly the lower ranks in top 10, including Peo Bilbao, Simon Yates, Felix Gall, Guillaume Martin, David Gaudu, Thibaut Pinot, those kind of guys that you would imagine. They also brought with them a number of their teammates as well to extend that gap and to get them a handicap coming into that final climb of the day. In the peloton, Tadej Pogačar came down in a crash early today, coming down on his left side. Remember, his left side is where he broke his wrist, his left arm. Or left wrist. Once we got to the Col de la Loze, the group up in front had about 3 minutes of an advantage. They kept going and fighting for that stage win. For most of the climb, it looked like they could believe in their chances for stage victory, and they were right to do so. Felix Gall attacked with about 6 kilometers to go clear of everybody else in the breakaway, with Simon Yates looking like the strongest of the other riders up there. In the peloton, let's talk about the big one here. Tadej Pogačar, with about 10 kilometers left of the Col de la Loze, began to crack. Jersey unzipped, not looking great, pale-faced, with Marc Soler helping him all the way up the climb. In response, Jumbo-Visma just went for it. Sepp Kuss, he did his job. Jonas Vingegaard bridged up to Tiesj Benoot. Tiesj Benoot did his job. Jonas Vingegaard bridged up to Wilco Kelderman. Jonas Vingegaard attacked once more, and he was away ahead of every other real GC contender. This was dominant with a capital D. No one else really came close. Behind, Rodriguez couldn't hold on to Adam Yates, who seemed like one of the stronger riders in the top 5. Adam Yates now solidifies his third place overall, whilst, the rest of GC came home in dribs and drabs. Pogacar really was the victim of today. In the end, he finished today 22nd place, 7 minutes and 37 down. And also, this is not to neglect the fact that Felix Gall took the stage win for Age Desert Citroën in his debut Tour de France, a stage win for him. He's had a great race so far. Polka dot jersey stint in the beginning. He's very close to that classification now. Also top 10 in GC. It's a brilliant Tour de France debut for a rider who we were sort of questioning. He's had a lot of hype in the past, but not quite delivered at Grand Tours. But here he has done it. In the GC fight, Jonas Vingegaard leads the Tour de France by now 7 minutes and 35 seconds. Adam Yates sits in third place at 10 minutes and 45. Carlos Rodriguez in fourth at 12 minutes and 1 second. Simon Yates is in fifth at 12 minutes 19. Peo Bilbao is in sixth at 12 minutes and 50 seconds, with Jai Hindley falling down to seventh at 13:50. Eighth place is Felix Gall of Age Desert Citroën at 16 and 11. Kuss in ninth at 16:49. And rounding out top 10, it is the Petit Prince du Bretagne, David Gaudu, at 17 minutes and 57 seconds.
Yeah, we'll start with Felix Gall. Felix Gall, I wasn't doubting you, but Ewan doubted you before the Tour de Suisse. Nevertheless, Ewan, huge victory for AG.
You say that, but early on today's stage, in the live commentary over on the Cycling Day main channel, I said Gall was the strongest in the breakaway for stage.
Yeah, but I'm saying before that, before he was even took a stage win, but never in the Tour de Suisse. But nevertheless, Ewan, huge moment for AG2R Citroën, with Ben O'Connor, the big plan not really happening, and for Felix Gall as well, Austrian winner. What more can you say? And he looks like he's going to be potentially getting inside top 10 as well by the time we get to Paris, and even challenge the popular jersey, maybe.
There's always bragging rights between these French teams of who has the most to sort of to have on their palmares by the end of the race. This year, Cofidis had a really good case there with two stage wins and potentially a top 10 with Martin. Martin might not enter top 10, but 2 stage wins is good. And Age Desert Citroën with a stage win, a top 10, and a really strong performance from Felix Gall definitely is up there. Groupama right now don't have a stage win. They're going to finish in 10th probably. And who else really? Total, they lost their leader. Arkea, Zilch. These are the French teams. It definitely looks at Age Desert. are going to be one of the stronger of the French teams in terms of their bragging rights. Also, bear in mind, this is their home region. They're from the Alps. They're an Alpine team. Look towards Alpine talent. Felix Gall as well. He's not from this part of the world, but he is a rider that AG2R have picked up as part of their new international diversification program, which included picking up Ben O'Connor and other talent. Gall was at Sunweb DSM a couple years back, and he wasn't delivering top-tier results at Grand Tours and UCI World Tour stage races. We were hoping because we saw like sort of glimpses of real gold dust there. And now at the Tour de France, he's delivered on that at AG2R Citroën team. It's great news for them. They have a new star to look out for and to protect in the years to come.
A great effort by the team as well with Ben O'Connor. Like, for some riders, they don't want to do the work for their team if they're the big dog, but he was doing a massive shift for Felix Gall. But nevertheless, the headline here is Tadej Pogačar. And what do you think went wrong? You touched on there, the crash. Could that have potentially done something? Because he's had 2 weeks where he's been, just absolutely phenomenal. Him and Vingegaard ahead of everyone else. And today it went backwards.
Well, we await the interview from him post-race. They have to do an official white jersey interview. We've missed that, sadly. That will come out later on, so patch up everything else. But the crash maybe contributed to it. It's not a great day to start the day. Yesterday as well, there were pictures of him after the finishing line, just looking a bit sort of spent as well. Alan Piper, who was in the team car, such a close ally of Pogačar in his time at UAE. He was in the team car, rather, at the Planche de Belfi. He's had health complications and has had to take a step back from cycling, but he was saying that Pogačar just didn't look like himself over the past couple stages. And I mean, you're saying in that time trial, I thought he still rode a great time trial, but losing 1.5 minutes to Vingegaard there was just a huge blow. Maybe psychologically he was out of it as well, but today that just physical touch was just missing. That ability to hang on to that front group was just gone. He cracked before the bike part of the climb. In 2020, he was right up there in the climb. It didn't suit him that time. He lost seconds to Roglic then, but here it just was sort of huge. We haven't seen a general classification rider really, well, a top tier podium contender crack that hard in the final week of racing, probably since Simon Yates at the Giro back in 2018. Like that, it's just huge. It's huge, and I don't really know what caused this, where to go forward. It's an insurmountable gap now, 7.5 minutes in GC. It's not going to happen unless Jonas gets evaporated. He crashes and breaks every bone in his body. These aren't situations that are going to happen.
And let's hope not.
I mean, of course, it's not the way Pogačar would want to win anyway. There's been murmurs and so forth about Pogačar abandoning. I don't think he will. Vingegaard in his post-race interview said, Pogačar never gives up. I'll need to be ready to react to whatever move he gives. But I think it's done now, to be honest. Don't really know what's going to happen on stage 20 in the Vosges. We have a cracking battle for 4th place, so let's probably hone in on that one.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's kind of like after that time trial, it was kind of like, oh, it's still salvageable, but now it's just it's over, especially like cracking like that. But yeah, as you said, the 4th place podium spot, Adam Yates looks like he's going to finish on the podium at least. And I mean, what did you make of that battle? Jad Hindley wasn't in that early breakaway, and we thought that was a bit of a mistake considering all the rivals that went up there. And who do you think's kind of the top gun here in terms of 4th, 3rd, etc.?
I'm thinking Simon Yates. He really, really wants that top 5. He's in it now, but I think a 4th place would be huge for him. It would match his best performance in 2000. No, this would be his best performance rather in the Tour de France. I think mixing him up with his twin brother, they must hate when people do that.
Both white jersey winners as well.
I know, and it was like the 2016-17 are so close, both Froome years. But I think Yates is in a really good position. Rodriguez has 18 seconds at the moment, which is a decent buffer, but Rodriguez was dropped by Hindley today, and I thought Hindley was losing a lot of momentum in this Tour de France. Rodriguez also lost time to Yates, it was Adam Yates in the time trial at least. I think Chris Harper's looking like a really useful teammate, probably stronger than Pidcock and those other guys are looking. So For me, I think Simon Yates has the ability to jump up, but jumping into that early breakaway is going to be a huge battle for these guys in lower ranks of top 10 on stage 20. I think that's going to be probably the most intriguing part of it. Even today, with that battle for the breakaway, Hindley not being in there was a huge blunder in the end. Maybe they didn't think that the breakaway would go all the way to the end, but Bora, you could tell that they were frustrated that they missed out because they started coming to the front with their riders, with Nils Pollard and so forth in the valley before Col de la Loze, trying to bring it back because they were worried that Bilbao, Yates, and potentially Gall were going to jump up in the GC. Gall didn't gain enough time, but Bilbao and Yates definitely did. And for Hindley, it's going to be 1 minute he'd have to make up on Bilbao to jump back into 6th place. It's been a slippery slope for Hindley since that crash where he's fallen from 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th, 5th now to 7th. I'm starting to think that it's not going to be a top 5 for Jai. Rodriguez as well, just not quite a first-class performance today, but his teammates look, well, Kwiatkowski and Castroviejo were strong, but on a climb like that, it comes down to your own legs in the end.
Yeah, I mean, looking past the GC for a bit, I mean, it's quite interesting what happened with those two groups attacking, but the lower ends of top 10. But in that breakaway as well, we had Giulio Ciccone, and Ewan, he's really launched himself into, well, further a bigger advantage to Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard, who we thought were going to be the big threats. Obviously now Felix Gall's in the conversation as well. But yeah, how do you think his chances are now for taking that jersey, being the first Italian to win that jersey since 1992, that we spoke about in the Echelon Cycling podcast? But yeah, you're in Ciccone. How do you see that going?
I mean, Ciccone is in a great place. He didn't get swamped by, I mean, if Vingegaard were right up there towards the end on Col de la Loze fighting for that 20 points at the top, it would have been a different situation, I feel. But Ciccone did a really good job. He's evidently on good legs at the moment. He won every sprint that he could in that first part of the stage. Gall, I think, is a big surprise re-entering that mix because he said he didn't want to go for it. It said it was too many goals to get Polka Dot stage 1 and top 10, but he's in a really good position to do that right now. But I don't think Gall will be allowed into a breakaway in that on that final mountain stage in the Vosges. I think Ciccone, realistically, in that top 3 is the only rider who'd be allowed in that breakaway. And Jumbo and UAE don't need to ride that final stage in the Vosges as hard as they might have imagined, given that the GC is not really up in the air anymore. It's 7 minutes. They don't need to ride the stage for the stage win in the bonus seconds, unless UAE won a stage win for Pogačar. Maybe if they really want to get rid of Carlos Rodriguez, that might happen. But to be honest, I feel like it's going to be a breakaway day on Saturday.
Yeah, so big day out in the breakaway, Queen stage. How did you find it out there?
Yeah, it was a really tough day from the start. Yeah, pace was really high from the first climb, with obviously quite a few guys looking for the break today. And then, yeah, I think once the first break went, you could tell guys were pretty keen to get across, and I was lucky enough to go across in that second move, across to Kevin. From then on, it was just a bit of a battle. I think, like, you could tell the GC teams behind didn't really want to let the break win. And yeah, unfortunately, I don't think the break really had too much of a chance, with never really getting more than 3 minutes. And then, yeah, quite a few GC guys were in that break, and I think that made it really, really tough for us. When you got the caliber of rider like that, I think it's a really difficult situation to try and do a top result from. But I think between Kevin and I, yeah, we fought really hard together and fought all the way to the finish line. And that's all we could do today, so we have to be proud of that.
And you then said you spotted your dad at the side of the parcours. Did that give you some extra motivation, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I saw Dad at the bottom of the last climb. He sent me a message before the stage saying he was going to be there, but yeah, it was really nice to be in the break and be at the front of the race. And obviously all the other Aussie fans out on the road. Yeah, there was lots of Aussie flags out there today, which is awesome.
Nice. Perfect.
Well, that's basically it for a recap race analysis on a day where a car couldn't even stop Jonas Vingegaard from taking time on Tadej Pogačar. And of course, as always, hit the like buttons, comment down below as well what you thought of today's stage, and join us over on the live commentary streams on the Cycling Dane main channel. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you around.